Hello, hello, and welcome in, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isaiah. Kilgoon is with me as usual, and we brought back one of the GOATs of the Titan Forge team for our upcoming God release preview. We've got Ben from the art team joining us. How you doing, Ben? It's been a minute.
I'm doing good, man.
Nice. Well, we're stoked to have you here, and we're stoked to talk about the next couple of upcoming gods coming to SMITE 2. Kilgoon, I know we talked about it on Monday, but it was kind of teased in live. Mercury up first, but we're going to talk about who's coming after Mercury as well.
Yeah, so we're just going to talk about Mercury and the god after Mercury, and then we'll talk about the next two when we get to the next two. Again, we're just trying to stay a little bit more flexible as new priorities come up and not make sure that we're locking ourselves in too far out. Can you scoot over a little bit? Sorry,
yeah, get
like,
you in frame.
There you go. There we go. Yeah.
We can't have you cut off, man. Yeah, get cozy. We love it.
Yeah, so but we do have some model updates to show off about these gods.
Yeah.
We have some teasers for their design changes, and we'll go from there.
Sweet.
So.
Well, shall we just go ahead and hop in with Mercury? Got some dope screenshots from Ben here.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna pull up the handy dandy not laptop, it's a desktop.
Handy dandy desktop, yes.
A full PC here, but let's take a look at
like
Mercury.
A spaceship over there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Fancy machine.
It is.
And I will call out before I pull this up. These are work in progress, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But we are excited to show off Mercury's model updates. Ben, talk to me about what's going on here.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone here that plays Mercury knows this. He was one of the first gods that lived in that more stylized era, and he never really got a facelift.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been one of the guys where he still had charm to him, but we were he just doesn't fit the rest.
Right.
So when we got into this round, we were like, let's try to definitely upgrade him, but also make him feel more speedy.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of one of the things. He had armor back in the day, which I guess makes sense because you're fighting and stuff, so you still want to feel like you're armored. But I don't know, it just didn't whenever I would look at reference of statues of Mercury and stuff like that, it would be he'd be wearing the togas and stuff. So I was and then you see other pop culture references that also use that, and I'm it just seems like that's the vibe. It's very streamlined. It seemed like it fit him more, so we decided to go that route. It's a little style on the armor here, on the cloth here. It's a little too kind of grainy. That's one of those work in progress things. We're gonna probably pull the normal mask back on that, so it's a little bit smoother. But the idea was don't make him not look like Mercury.
Exactly, yeah.
But bring in all the things that we felt Mercury was supposed to have that was not there from the past. So yeah. I mean, he's gonna be punching his stuff, and I think his old animations, it's a divisive thing, right? Do you like him when he's doing the whole fisticuffs thing, or do you like him when he's kind of more of the ninjas animation set where he's kind of So we didn't feel like the fisticuffs made full sense, and it's really hard to skin things for that because you have to just. When you have
curled up,
you just, let's do this, So yeah, we have I think the animation set is more of kind of the modern, just that kind of thing. So
nice. Well, he's definitely looking a lot more sleek here, which is super cool.
We felt like we had to keep the helmet. That was an iconic bit that was a lot of discussion internally about, because there was some people were on the side of it kind of makes him look like a minion, but at the same time it's kind of been an iconic part of his look, and also it is a very iconic statue, I think, where he has the helmet on.
Yeah.
And so wanted to stick with that.
We considered maybe doing even with the fur, going more the way we did kind of the Ares stuff, where it's more cards and alphas, but we just figured for this one we'd go with for now and see how people felt about it, and then push it farther if we needed to. But Kilgoon said, it's kind of iconic, and we just when we do these things, we don't want to push it too far, where it's hey, here's a character you all know and love, and now he's not that character anymore.
Yeah. Right.
And then who's to say what elements define who that is, right? So I'm talking about the animations changing. People might be but that's who Mercury is, and so I might have already upset some people making a decision to go that route, right? So we kind of just felt that was one of his most iconic things, and we didn't want to change that.
Yeah. I also I don't know if the old model had the caduceus,
It did not.
Which is kind of something he's always been associated with. So I think it's cool that we worked that into his messenger bag.
Yeah.
And as a messenger, you gotta have a messenger bag, right?
That's
just
sick.
I mean, I think there were there hints at it, right? In the belt and the helmet, he has some snake-like stuff. So there's a little bit of that, but it was nothing straight up just in your face. But if you look on his right hip, so on the left, the screen left, he actually has that caduceus.
Oh yeah,
showing
I
there.
see it,
and it actually flops and stuff. So that was one of the things where it's I mean, I don't know how this guy would use it. He's like holding it like, he's not using it for abilities.
Power
but,
of work compels you.
It's
Right.
like such an amazing thing in the lore that like we try to tie in some like shape language and motifs, but we didn't like go all in on it. So this time we were like, let's try to put it in there.
Yeah. This is sick. Well,
Yep.
Gilligan, I know you talked with design a
I
little
did
bit
talk
earlier.
with design a little bit.
We
So-
gotta get a little bit of gameplay teasers
Yeah,
here.
so we'll do the full in-game for Mercury on Monday.
Yeah.
When we go over a lot of stuff.
There's
that
a
is in
lot
this
of stuff in the next update.
But we aren't going to go in-game today for either of these. We're just going to show kind of the model update as they are right now. We're going to give you a little teaser about what's coming gameplay-wise. Largely, most of the changes for Merc are intended to just kind of make him feel better and clean up some of the stuff that weren't great in Smite 1. So the two kind of small teasers that Pawn gave me were in Smite 1, while you were jumping, you didn't get your passive stacks for moving. So you were actually like,
oh, wow.
nerfed
So, yeah.
if you were jumping. So that's been fixed so that you actually will get passive stacks if you're jumping while you're moving. His one is him running out and punching the person really fast, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it's supposed to visually look like. And now that will also apply on hit effects. So if you get a lot of on hit things, then that will trigger those. So just a fun little thing, and we'll see what else there is planned up from the design side. But I've heard it's mostly true to the iconic Mercury character with a few cleanups.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we're going to be showing him off in full on our Monday show. So players won't have to wait too long before they see Mercury fully on the battleground and in action. But in terms of who's after Mercury, I know an iconic character, fan favorite. Some would say we are not even a MOBA until this character gets into the game, right?
It is a requirement that every MOBA has this character.
Yes.
So
we are super excited to announce that Sun Wukong is going to be joining the roster after Mercury.
Yes.
Super excited for him. Let me switch tabs, and we can show off how he looks in Smite 2. He's looking clean.
Yeah. So with his update, again, like he was just this. If you go back to Smite 1, I'm like, this dude's just sick. Like,
Yeah.
he's got great balance, great design. Like, I don't know if y'all know about OG.
Oh,
Sun
yeah.
Wukong. Like, he was like not some.
yeah,
Right.
because
We made this.
Hunbots was what is now Hunbots was Sun Wukong,
yes.
and the model was.
Yeah,
It was
the
an
god
interesting
formerly
approach.
known as Sun
Yeah.
Wukong,
Right.
Humbots. But when we saw this, when the design came through, which is like, we love this guy. When we were thinking about what we could do to upgrade him, I mean, maybe we could have made his necklace have some bigger elements or something, but like, I mean, he just was chock full of really good details. And it was like, when you make designs for characters, like you want to like add areas of interest, like focal points and stuff, but you don't want to like pepper the character with that everywhere, because then it's like, where do you look at? So this guy to me has always had such a great balance. And like, I was like, should we change his face, maybe his hair? But I'm like, he has a really good blend of like monkey features, but also human features, right? And it's like, it's always kind of like when you see versions of Sun Wukong, it's like, well, how far do you lean?
Yeah.
One way or the other, right? Like Black Myth Sun Wukong, I think that came out. It's like, I feel like that went too monkey, like, but that's because I'm used to Smite, which is
Right, yeah.
a little more comic and human. So like, but I love this character. I love the designer. So we didn't change much. We just try to like enhance what was there, get the textures looking good, and get it all PBR'd up. So
Yeah, one thing that I didn't even notice from Smite 1, but I'm sure is there, like, just like the tiger pattern on his like little bat cape.
Yeah.
It just looks so sick.
yeah, man, it's like I said, it's just this is one of those stands the test of time kind of designs, in my opinion, for Smite. So yeah.
Yeah, Magic Cudgel is looking really sick too. I love the details in the gold, seeing the patterns on the armor as well. Just like our classic Sun Wukong making it to Smite 2. I'm just super excited.
Yeah.
Yep, I think he looks great. I played him in playtest this morning.
Ooh, nice.
Feels pretty good. Still, not the next patch with the patch after, so a little ways out. Still a little more cleanups to do and whatnot, but starting to feel really good.
Sweet. Well, do you have any short gameplay teasers for Sun Wukong? Maybe?
I do have a short gameplay teaser.
Spill the tea.
That he is a hybrid scaling god.
Oh, okay.
And he scales with int in a unique new way.
And that's all we're gonna say.
That's all we're gonna say for right now. So it's a very interesting new scaling mechanism off of int. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's sick. That's sick.
Chat's like, what the hell?
I know,
You
right?
can't just say that.
You can't just say that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he was fun to play this morning. He is the Sun Wukong you know and love, but just a little bit better. So
sweet. Well, those are the next 2 upcoming gods coming to SMITE 2. We're only going to do 2 today. Yep. I think 2 at a time is a good cadence for us, right, Kilgoon?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we do need to figure out timing wise to not have the one of them get spoiled so early. But I think that like just in terms of how far out we're willing to commit and talk about publicly, I think this is just a better flow for us. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to these 2. I'm looking forward to the 2 after them. And I think I feel like we have a roster of bangers coming up pretty much. I don't think there's anybody on there that everybody has their favorite god, and to some extent, you're always going to be disappointed until the next god is your favorite god. But I think if you try to look at it objectively about like who are the iconic characters that we're still feeling the missing the most, right? In terms of whether they're just like mythically iconic, whether they've been core parts of SMITE's meta throughout the years, whether they introduced something unique in terms of gameplay. I think we have a good roster set for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So
we're going to keep going 2 by 2. So after Sun Wukong is live, we'll do another show like this.
The gods go marching 2 by 2.
I know, right? We're going to talk about the next upcoming after we kind of reveal Sun Wukong in full, and he is live in game. But that's not too far out. You're talking about an update every 2 weeks. That's just 4 weeks from now. So super exciting. I think that is everything that we had in terms of talking about the next couple of gods joining the SMITE 2 roster. We showed off the in-game models. Kilgun gave us some teasers.
Just a little teaser.
Just some small teasers. Yeah. And I figure we could just open up the show for Q&A. Ben's going to hang out because it's been a while since he's been on the show. So chat, if you have any art-focused questions, Ben is ready and willing to answer them. So we're just going to hang out for the next 45-ish minutes and talk SMITE 2 with y'all. So what do y'all want to talk about today?
Yep. I will say there was a question, will both launch with aspects or will they come later? Merc's aspect will almost certainly come later just because I know that they're working on some other stuff at the moment. We'll see about Sun Wukong. There is something that's theorized. I don't know if it's going to be done in time for his release. But we are keeping going on the aspect train, and we have a lot of older gods that still don't have aspects as well that we're working through. Yeah.
Let's see. For Ben, was it ever discussed about giving Sun Wukong the pheasant feather cap that he has and a lot of the art that he's depicted in historically?
Man, we didn't bring that up. I think like I said, it was one of the ones where we thought he already was pretty iconic, but I feel like even if thinking back of that, if we did add that, it just wouldn't feel right, in my opinion. Like I think having the look that he has now, streamlined enough, it has the monkey stuff, I think it would just like break it up a little bit, and like the balance would be, like I mentioned, kind of balance. He's really good there. Like we really didn't want to mess him up with any changes.
Ben, please redesign Hell.
Oh, that's coming. that's coming.
I feel like when we first started SMITE 2 as a project, you made like a short list of characters that need work.
Yes.
And I feel like she was on it.
She was on it. And what's crazy about Hell is like she's already had a rework, right? Mm-hmm. So like if you look at the original Hell, she had like I think like blacks and whites kind of like tied into her. Like I think it was one character that had like just one kind of like half and half texture on it, like OG Hell, like 2014, 2013 Hell. But the new one was then the stance switching kind of vibe. So we're going to update that. The proportions will look better with the more Hell, like, what's the dark form called? Is the Hell form? Like, it's the
I just say
form?
dark stance and light
dark
stance.
Dark stance. Okay. I try my best with the lore, guys, but this is a lot of gods. I got a lot of art to do. So the dark stance of Hell we know is more towards like death and stuff like that, right? So like we're gonna give her a little bit more dark. I mean, she was already pretty dark before, but we're gonna lean a little more into like the death and decay kind of vibe, but not in a way that's like off-putting. It's hard to describe, but like we want her to still feel attractive, but we also want to have some of those notes that feel like more appropriate to that stance, because before she just felt like a chick with black hair.
Yeah.
Right. So we're doing that, and then we're still up in the air on the light stance and like the hood, because some people like the hood a lot, but other people are like, well, why do we have the hood? We could just take it back, right? So like, I don't know if she's gonna have the hood on the update, which I don't know how important that is for some people, but like, I know internally there was a lot of debate, but I think we might take off the hood. Don't quote me on that.
Subject to change, right?
Yeah,
That's the theme of the show.
Yeah, work in progress.
Yes.
Work in progress.
And I will say, Hell is not the next mage, so we're just talking a little bit theoretically right now about Hell. So don't be surprised the next mage is not Hell, but she is. She's somebody we've talked a lot about.
We have like an internal concept that we kind of like, or like we're vibing with this, but the model is. We got a guy, Jason Welch, who's like our skin art director. He like really has been wanting to work on that, but it's like a back burner task. So like she's not going to be ready for a little bit, but like Jason cooks. So when it comes out, it's gonna look real good.
Yeah. Chat's mad at me for saying mage. Our next mid lane character. Sorry.
Kilgoon, I've seen a couple of people ask in chat, but any plans for maybe an early flash test for these two upcoming gods, similar to what we did with Scylla and Ganesh?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. We haven't really talked about it too much. The next flash test that we do will probably be for 5.5 as well, is my guess. So we might stick...
And Mercury will definitely be in that.
Yeah, we might stick with just Mercury and 5.5 just to kind of limit the number of potential break cases. Yeah. But we can talk about some Wukong, maybe. It depends on how good we feel like he's doing at that point in time.
Who did they say is after Mercury? Sun Wukong.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Quint.
Will there be any updates to tweak camera options? I will say, I believe on Xbox, the action cam is still broken.
We're still working to get that fixed on Xbox.
We were trying to fix an issue and we broke something else because some people were getting locked into the action cam inadvertently, and we were trying to prevent that from happening. We accidentally made it so nobody could lock into the action cam. So we should have an update going out to fix that soonish. We are looking at more tweaks to the action cam for future updates. I'm not sure what exactly will be in OB13, but I think I think we generally feel like it's a good addition to the game, and the reaction's been pretty positive, and there's areas for us to make it better. But I don't want to commit to that exactly what's changing just yet.
Ben, I've seen a couple people asking about Cirquette, and I've also seen Bastet. So when we get to the point to where we start working on those two characters, I've seen a comment about making them maybe potentially more animal-like, like other Egyptian gods, but just not to lock you into anything, but just overall initial thinking about whenever we do get to those characters, how do we maybe approach them?
We have Bastet's on the list of ones we want to look at, but we haven't done any exploration as to what that would look like. I think those are... It's hard when you put like animal, like for some Wukong it works, but again, we went more human with him. Like, I guess maybe that's just a me thing. Whenever I start like seeing like person body and I'm like animal head, I'm like, well, this is freaking weird. I like it for Sobek though.
Yeah,
it's like and Birdman, like Ra. I like the Ra head. But
you know that really bad film adaptation of Cats that came out like 5 years ago?
Yes.
I worry that Bastet would end up
that
ballpark if you go too far that way.
Yeah, it's like if you just like literally take an animal head, like I have a bird head and then put it on a man's body, I'm cool with that. Or an alligator, and I'm just rocking that shit. I'm sorry. I'm cool with that, right? But if you like have it be like the Sumocom where it's a female face, but then do I split the mouth like a cat kind of mouth does? And do I have the nose be like a normal nose? Do I have it be this little stubby? I'm like, well, I guess a little...
Yeah.
Am I looking at like am I going to pet this thing? Or am I talking? I don't know what to do here, right? So we'll figure that out. But I try to lean towards like what I define as like appeal, and it's just like the generic like, when you look at it, is it off-putting, or do you like think that's desirable? Like this is like I would want to play as that character. Like that's the definition of appeal for me. Is like I see it, I'm like,
I want to play with
that's cool. Yeah. That's badass. That's whatever art director term you want to use. It hits all the marks. And then Cirquette, whoever did the concept, like Jason brought it up in the room, and it was like, he's like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? So like, we definitely want to do that. Jason actually made the original Circuit too. I keep dropping Jason's name a lot today, but like he's we were talking, I think it was this week or last week, I think, yeah, last week, and so, or maybe it was this week.
Time flies.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it all blends. It all blends. So basically, there was options to kind of use part of like her OG Smite, like with the weird hair that's kind of going up. It's like we're just like, it just doesn't really, like, it's not hitting. But she had like an original T2 that we had, which was kind of like the armored version.
Yeah.
And so like, worst case scenario, if we don't have the time, or like when we make characters, it's like, you know, we got budgets and timetables, and like we just have to say like, where am I going to spend my money, basically, right? We're going to put the resources. So like, if we get to a point where like Bastet needs more of the resources, or Hell needs more of the resources because they need more of the overhaul than Circuit does, we would probably use a lot of the armor and just recombine it into a better looking, appealing character. But we will look at, is there other options for us to kind of, you know, explore there. So probably some armor. I mean, it won't be like a redo in the sense that her whole outfit changes, I'd imagine. It's more about probably like the upper triangle of the character, making sure that looks good, like her face and then the torso, and then the rest of it will probably stay there around the same. But we're definitely going to look at like the armor that we have for the T2, and we, you know, that design was kind of along the concept that we saw on the Reddit or whatever. That was kind of along the lines of where we wanted to go anyways. So like, I think that people will be pleased if they like that design. For sure.
Sweet. Well, I think I saw a question that would be good for both of you. How do you all come up with new skin themes and decide which gods receive skins for that theme?
Do you want to start? Do you want me to start? I can talk.
Man. There's like that's like 10 things.
Yeah,
I
know.
That's like asking me how to write a novel, and you're like, how does the alphabet work, right? There's so much to it, right? The first thing, as far as like choosing, you know, we try to like, there's a whole, we don't pick the same characters back to back to back, because we want to like make sure that there's like a fair spread of characters for everybody to pick. That being said, we do know that certain people have an affinity for certain gods over others. So like, you know, free Jean Kui. I'm here for Jean Kui. I love that man. But like, people don't love that man, right? He's not that guy. So like, we tend, when with someone like him, we wouldn't do skins as much because people just don't play him that much, right? But for someone like Kukulkan or like, you know, everyone's favorite 60 god character or 60 skin character Neith, right? Like, people play these characters, so we give them more skins, right? So like, there's a lot of that gets factored into it. And then there's also like skin diversification. So whenever we like do pick skins, we're like, we don't want a patch to be all sci-fi or all fantasy. We want to make sure there's something for, like, that's my whole philosophy. I want something for everybody. Everyone has an opportunity to get something they might want to play in a patch, right? And then depending on how big that patch is, depends on how many we can diversify within that kind of amount. But like, those are kind of the core things that we try to follow from my perspective, especially when we're like looking at the skin ideas. Is like, is this gonna be enough of a spread idea-wise? So, you know, we can mix things. You can cross-pollinate and have like fashion mixed with like sci-fi, you know, and create a kind of theme. Or you can just go like fashion mixed with like gothic elements and maybe do some sort of like, you know, vampire-y kind of Castlevania kind of vibe, you know? And then as far as just like, how do you come up with the ideas and stuff like that, new skin themes? We try to see what people are into, again. We also try to see what like the meta of like pop culture is
this
into.
Is very
right?
true, yeah.
And that's kind of like you might like strike out, you might hit it like a home run. Who knows, right? So we try to like just kind of be just aware of what people are into generally, bring those ideas in, and then we're all like fans. Everyone that works here is like fans of games and fans of like media and pop culture and stuff like that. So like, even if it may not be something that's relevant in the meta at the time, we might be like, dude, this would be so good if this worked. And like, what's even better is when you can come up with a skin theme that like vibes with the kit of the character.
Yeah,
that's hard to do. But like, when you have like an idea where it's like, this would work so well with this ability, and then like George Washington, right?
Right, yeah.
The
Mount Rushmore wall is so sick.
I'm gonna spoil it. I hope I don't get in trouble. I'm gonna get canceled for this. I don't know. But we had 2 ideas to do, right? Maybe one will come back next year. Alex is nervous now. He's nervous.
No, there have been so many bad ideas
Okay.
that are political over the years, but please go for it. No,
Bad. Just ideas that didn't make it off the cutting room floor. They might make. They might come back.
Some of them were really bad.
I thought Thor's Washington was bad because this is the play on the name, right?
Yeah.
But we made it work. There was an idea to do a Kukulkan or Thor, right? And so I'm leaving work one night. I got a kid at home. I love playing with her, so I'm like, I gotta leave at this time. It's kid time. We're going.
Yep.
So I'm leaving, and it's like Kukulkan, and we're gonna do this like crazy bald eagle with like we got this girl Gwen Parker. She's another amazing artist in the team. She like was like, we're gonna do this. This is. I'm really like passionate about this idea. And then she like had like a quick sketch that she had, and it was like, yeah, that's awesome. All the feathers had like the red, white, and blue. It sounds obnoxious, but it was like this is
a good kind of obnoxious.
kind of badass,
Yeah.
man. You know, like I could see him doing like his tornadoes and like screech. You know, the screech. I'm not gonna. I can do a caw, but I can't do a screech. But you know, bald eagle screech. And then I leave, and then we have another dude on the team, Justin Miller, who's also a badass. He's a guy who throws like monkey wrenches at me because he's like, but what if we didn't do the bald eagle and we did? I think so. I think there's a guy Blake on the team that came up with the name Thorge. It's a play on words. So he's the inception.
Oh, yeah.
But like it coming to fruition was Justin. I come home, I go home, and I come back the next day and like. Scrap everything. Thor's Washington, right? To get to the point of like where I'm going with this, it's like I thought this is crazy. But I'm like, well, maybe he has like a eagle kind of hammer or something's on there, and then like he goes
with
to the
sunglasses.
sky. Yeah, that was all Justin. Yeah, it was like, how do we mix like the most? It's like Idiocracy mixed with like. Eagles and like like the most like obnoxious over the top what the hell kind of Ric Flair with glasses kind of vibe like oh my god this is crazy, right? So when we were going up in the sky, it's like let's like have him come down and like I was hoping to get a sound where the eagle screech again. Mm-hmm. I'm big on the eagle screeches, right? But like I think they said that might be a gameplay tell or something like that. That'd be a problem. We got Kellen on the audio team was always like, man, I want to do so much more with the audio, but like if you change some stuff around, then it's like
people
a pay
can't
to
tell
lose potentially or pay to win, right? So anyways, I'm rambling at this point, but what made this kind of work was like, well, what do we do for his rock wall, right? The thing that like holds you in place. And we're like, we should do like a Mount Rushmore homage, but we could take the heads. If you look, it's like an Easter egg, right? Take the heads of other gods that have existed that have had their like the Poseidon where he's on like the fighter jet, like he's one of the heads on there. Thor's Washington's one of the heads on there. Ra America, of course, is there. And then you have the Janus. He had like a President Janus or something like that. Yeah, he's on the other side, right? And I even like made sure to like orient the heads exactly like the presidents, and I try to like make sure they fit the right like spot. I mean the one that was the Raw America, he like I think it's Andrew Jackson maybe, I don't know, right? Yeah. Shit nerd. But like he was like aimed like this. So I'm like, oh, we gotta do that. That one's gotta be raw so we can get the whole bird face and everything. But yeah, there's opportunities with certain skins where it's like this would be super awesome if we went with this character and then use that in the ability, right?
Yeah.
So we do that a lot. Yeah,
that's it's like example. Meatball Vulcan, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like things that you can tie in a little bit. I think players
and even when players call it the meatball, like that literally was like, oh, let's do a food guy, right? Yeah.
I think that like those are the best ideas when everything comes together. And sometimes it does start with the idea for the skin. Sometimes it starts with like we need to do an event and here's the available gods that we have to work with and what are the coolest things we can think of for these characters, right? So it does kind of go both ways. I think that it's hard to consistently come up with banger skin ideas, especially because like most themes you can only do like once or twice before they start to really fall off, you know? Some themes we've been fortunate that we can kind of keep going back to them but even still, it's hard to go back to them once you've done them 10 times. It's like, how do we do another,
and
dark,
make it
edgy
just
guy?
as good as the other ones, right?
I mean, and sometimes you kind of get these like ones that are like, everyone loves vampires, right? So like ubiquitous, kind of like across all cultures, everyone's kind of into that stuff. So those are ones that are easy. And then once you have a line, or you get a line that just pops off, like the Shadow Spirit line, right?
Oh yeah,
like that one was just some random Alpoish skin way back in the day, and then people were like, "This is cool," and so we went with that, and they were like, "Let's imagine a world where these guys inhabit," and so we created almost like a whole universe within SMITE where it's like this is like their world that they exist in, and so then it would be like each version of them would be like, do they come from a different tribe? Do they come from a different type of animal? Are there like marrow eaters like the Fenrir is that exist in this world that they're afraid of? That's like an indigenous creature that would come out. So some of us get like pretty like in the fanfics there, right? But you get like these ones that people really resonate with, and then we just try to find ways to expand upon those into like a wider range. So, but then sometimes you get into like this just gets too played out sometimes.
Somebody says bring back all the chibi skins.
Okay, so like
I thought that would just be a fun conversation.
So like the way how games work is you have you ever see Fortnite? Fortnite's like everyone rides the same rig.
Yeah, so basically like in Fortnite there's one skeleton, like because even in like video games there's like a set of bones that are underneath your body, right? And then those bones are animated to do things like running or waving or doing, a dance or whatever, right? And a game like Fortnite, there is one skeleton, there's one rig that is used across every character. And everything they ever have done uses the same rig.
So that animation team's like, we're going to do only dance emotes, like to sell or whatever the emotes are, right? Our teams don't get that luxury, right? They're like, every character is its own, like, rig in different size like proportions and stuff, and so when you make a chibi character, like I'm a normal sized human, right? I'm actually kind of short, so I'm like more on the shorter end, but like I have my proportional you can't see my from like arm to like humerus to like radius ulna, it's all a good proportional relationship that stays consistent with normal people, right? And that's on a rig, and I'm doing all the stuff that Kilgoon was doing. Now imagine I now chibified myself, right? I got like
just like
big
that.
head, and I'm like, how does that work, right? Like, so when you change the proportions, you're effectively changing the rig, and then you're effectively changing all the animations that go with that.
Yep.
So you're basically making a whole new character every time you do that, and so one of the big things we have to do is, again, be mindful of resources and stuff like that. And we have our team sizes that we have to get scoped right and everything with our producers. So the chibi stuffs are just a big effort.
Yeah.
Like they don't seem like they're very small in stature, but big in effort, right? You would not get other skins basically if you wanted a chibi. And it would be like maybe a new god doesn't get to come out to get a chibi out, which sounds crazy. But
they're a lot of work.
That's why we don't really do them. And like we do have internally, we call them like V2s and V3s. When the rigs are so different, like Chibi Thor versus Thor, they're very different rigs. So he's like a V2 rig or something like that, right? And so there are animations that already exist, and there might be the possibility of gods that already have chibi characters. Maybe we can bring them over. But it is definitely more work, and there's even more that I come from more of a character like concepting background. I don't have all the full like there's like animation conversions on the rigs. There's a lot of terms that come out there that I'm just like, I trust you guys.
Yeah,
like you got this. But like it's not as simple as you just go from Unreal 3 to Unreal 5. It doesn't work like that.
I'll say it like kind of partially what you're talking on about like the way that your body is built and the way that like the skeleton's different and stuff has also been at one point in time we really liked the idea of doing like more like cross gender skins. I don't know what the right way to refer to those is, but like
gender bends or
turning a male character into a female character or vice versa, right? But male characters and female characters have different skeletons and walk differently.
Yep. Your whole like with men, and this is like not like trying to like nothing about men versus women. It's like just human, just like relationships, right? Like shoulders are always going to be wider on men, and the hips are always going to be wider on women because they have to like have babies, and like birth canals are there because you have a wider. I can't have a baby. I couldn't. My hips are too small. But it's all like things like that, and then that affects how your legs move, right? Because like we're like
because the attachment point is
the
different.
femur now is like out further, right? And so now you're walking, and now you're kind of like you have a shift in your pelvis because it's out further, right? And you get that kind of walk, you know, that you can the catwalk walk, right? But dudes don't do that because their stuff's a little bit shorter. So it then makes it really hard to do gender bands. Right?
Yeah.
We did that once with the Thanatos, and that was a little bit easier because like Thanatos is kind of floating.
Yeah.
Just like with the scythe, just like
I think we
floating
only
in, you know?
ever did floating ones in the end because it was just like it was
It's
too
a
much.
whole. It's the same kind of. Even though it doesn't seem like it would be that much, like they're just people, right?
Yep.
Didn't you just talk about proportions, Ben? Like they're not chibi people. This shouldn't be a whole new V2 rig, right? But like it is for them if you want it to like feel like an actual female or an actual male.
Someone in chat asks, is Bacchus's model smaller than it is in Smite 1? He seems almost the same height as Scylla.
So, I think he's the same size, man. I know it sounds crazy. But like, when we make the models, we always do like a test against other models, and we get the designer in there, and we try to be like, what's the kind of like play style of the character, and then what's like the nearest characters that are like around that play style to make sure we have like, especially when you have like height stuff, like like Hades is always one that's like, this dude's tall, and then he also floats. So like it's like if you have a Hades, it's like you put him in there like this is the cap, boys. We're not going any higher than Hades. He's too tall already. Cut this man down a little bit. So with someone like Bacchus, it's like we get them in there and they're in their T. I'm sure you've seen games break and you're walking around in T pose and stuff sometimes.
We've had that a couple times.
When we build a character, we build them in like T pose or A pose, right? So we usually do A pose because it's just an in between. But when we build them like that, they're upright. Their stature is like the height intended. But then if like all of a sudden Bacchus is like, because he's like a drunk.
Yeah,
dude,
he's super
He's
drunk.
like
Yeah,
running around with his, like, and it's like his whole posture is like leaning back because he like can't keep upright. That then makes him also look shorter, right? So like there's a lot of these factors that are not just the scale, but they're like his presentation adds to that. But he's the same size as he was in Smite 1, and they're all pretty much. I don't think there's anybody we would have scaled down, because if we scale them down, we're talking about the same problems we had with like the proportional relationships and animation change. Like Sobek was one where it was like I was really passionate about Sobek being like I want him to look like Killer Croc or something like that, like a little bit more like that. Because the Sobek we had was like he was like an in between from the old Sobek and where he wanted to go, and we had a half measure because we just couldn't put the resources. So like we got this middle ground, and I was like, it's not enough yet. And so once we did it like in Smite 2, it was still like an undertaking just to kind of get him there, right? I think I got kind of like yelled at by people. That
was good. Yeah.
Worth it.
let's see here. What do y'all think about a Mr. and Mrs. Skin line for gods that are married in lore? It could be fun and stylish. I think we had maybe one or two of these in Smite 1.
Changa.
Yeah, that's the one that comes to mind.
That comes to mind. I would say, even though like a lot of our very vocal fan base is super into like the lore of the characters, historically every time we've done a lore-based skin, it has not sold well. The only, technically, Wedding Dress Thor is a is a lore skin, but it's
also
memey.
Yeah,
right. So it kind of is a different world. So I think Capri had Mr. and Mrs. version of his own skin. Yep, good call, chat. But I would say just Mr. and Mrs. for Mr. and Mrs.'s sake, if it's just trying to be lore inspired, probably wouldn't do very well for us. There needs to be something more probably memey attached to it in order for people to actually want to buy it, and for it to, extend and touch enough people in the community that they would be interested in it.
When we do skins and stuff, we talked about trying to diversify and stuff, and so within that, you also want appeal and what people be into, and so when you try to make something, generally it's best to just go in on that thing and don't try to water it down to appease two parties. If some people want this and some people want that, don't go in the middle. Just choose one, right? But what you want to do is try to get the Venn diagram of if you do choose this one that's very going hard this way, you may sprinkle in something else that makes it also appealing to another group. So if we were to do a Mr. and Mrs., it's I would say what type of Mr. and Mrs., right? Like with the Khepri, it was like a love bug kind of thing, right? So it was like a love theme, but it wasn't like Khepri and Khepri's like girl, right, kind of thing. It was like a well, I guess it kind of was, but it was like like a cutesy like additive thing, right? It was added into. You have an extra element mixed in, like if it's like a fashion one, or like if you had like, I don't know, like hip hop like rapper kind of group or something like that, and like you then have the Mr. and Mrs., but they're both in the band and they like vibe with each other, but then also that might be appealing to people that like fashion and stuff. Like that makes it a little bit more kind of like, okay, that might do better, but like when it gets way too niche, it just becomes like, when we have our resources we have to put towards stuff, we got to make sure that it at least kind of vibes with like the general populace. And if it's like too niche, it gets too much of a risk, and it just isn't like, we don't feel it's fair to everybody, even though it might be fair to that one person that's really passionate about that one like style. It just like cuts off the potential, like the opportunity cost of making other skins that everyone else might like.
This is maybe a more interesting technical art question. I don't know if you will have the answers for it, but somebody remembers that Dodgy was really restricted by Smite 1's bone count limit in Unreal Engine 3.
Yes. Okay, this person knows their stuff.
And that affected like her outfit and her proportions a little bit. In Unreal Engine 5, do we face those same kinds of restrictions, or are like I don't know anything about our bone counts.
75 bones were, so you had draw call. I'll keep it short and sweet, but like basically 75 bones per chunk is what you can do, and you can only do like 2, maybe 3. We've done 1 in game. I'm not going to say what it is. It's 4, and that made like everyone in the industry, like everyone at their desk were like having nosebleeds looking at that thing. Like, dude, what are we can't do that. And it's like an ecosystem, so if you go hard on like 4 draw calls on one character, then everyone's gonna have 1 for the next one. Like characters with wings, that's 2 draw calls. Like already the bones for the wings and the bones to the body are gonna put you over budget. So yeah, that was a real thing in Unreal 3. But in Unreal 5, I believe the bone count's 256 now. So like we can go hard, but the thing is you still have to like work with what existed before as a starting point, and then try to see what we can add to it that doesn't break it. Because I could just say, yeah, sure, we're gonna like put Dodgy's like her tail probably be good to do like kind of like sim on, but then how does that play against our animations and just the simulation? You ever like play these games with sim and you just spin really fast and just let's play the game of how do we break the thing right as fast as possible? So you just spin really fast, and all of a sudden like your stuff goes through yourself. You've played games where the sim breaks, right? It's like that. Like simulation is like I can't control simulation. Computers and like data does that, and it'll break. It's how it is, right? So there will be moments that get introduced if you add more simulation that can possibly do those things, and also the animations. If players are used to a certain type of animation, we're now like in like territory that's like it's not the animation anymore because you let simulation take over, and you can kind of do a middle ground sometimes. But like it might be like this doesn't feel like my character anymore because it doesn't run the way it used to, or like the cloth sim like gets caught up in the leg, right? Like we have a team that's pretty picky about penetration. I would always tell the team, I'm like, penetration's okay in my book. I play Street Fighter, and like Ryu will be sitting there and he's like looking like a badass, and his headband just goes right through his face, and I'm like, okay, they're cool with it, and it's like it's right in the lobby thing, you know. So I'm more lenient on that because I play games where I'm like people are accepting of this, but our team's like no, we're better. We're gonna be better. We're gonna do better, and they're like really strong about making sure that the penetrations are acceptable. But like if there's anything that's just like inherently like bad, they're like no, we have integrity. We're not doing that, right? So if you have like the simulation going through and the person's like running and stuff, like more opportunity for penetrations could happen. And we've been trying to be even more lenient in Smite 2 to kind of allow for that stuff so that the simulation can be there, because we don't want to like omit simulation in lieu of like not penetration. But yeah, basically we're going to try to see what we can do. And if it feels not like Dodgy, we ain't doing it, but we have bones that we can put in there and try to simulate as best we can and see where we can get away with it.
Yeah. I don't know if you've talked about or if you've thought about Ishtar at all. But
she's great.
She's great, right?
Yeah.
One person mentioning, because I remember this was something that was mentioned when she first came out, that she was like missing wings. And I know we put out that skin later that had wings. Like, is there any thought about like, do you think Ishtar would have wings by default? And in Smite 2, or is that something that haven't put much thought to yet? It's okay if not. I just saw the question.
So anytime we like say yes with the wings and stuff, it introduces a whole nother level of like, well, which like animation set are we using, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like if a god doesn't start with those elements, sometimes they're like a whole new set of animations. So if we do that, then we're like, and we get locked into a set, it's like, did that set maybe not have non-coms, or like there are decisions we had to make along the way that were tactical on the internal side that like put us where we were with certain like limitations maybe on a certain animation set, right? So we would have to kind of to see like what's the right call there, but I'd say like maybe we could look at it. I mean, it's good that you're noting that now, because then like we can be mindful of that once we like start thinking about what we're doing. But like I'm just gonna say like to any god made from like season 6 and on, I think it's pretty Gucci, man. Like I think they did a pretty good job on most of them. There might be some that like have a little bit of adjustments that might need to be made, but like in the later years of Smite, when we got to like season 10 and stuff like that, like I'm like none of them are changing. They are staying how they are. Those are masterpieces, and there's no need to change them, right? But maybe we can add that. I'm really like. Kilgoon hit me up a while back about like the Bident for Hades, and I was just like, dude, like the Hades is done, right? We're way past that.
Yeah.
He was way back there, and he was like, but like people keep bringing it up. I see him in the hallways like Bident. Bident. I'm like, I'm not voting. I don't know what are you talking about? Bident. And so eventually I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it one night, and I'll do the whole like setting up the bones and the rig and waiting it myself, and it was just like no one knew. I just put it in. I was like, Bident.
Yeah.
I saw him in the hallway, and he was like, oh shit, it's going down.
Yeah, it was just a little thing that like I know the community really cared about.
Yeah.
And
The Caduceus.
it was a little bit of like,
you know?
I will say the Bident was a little bit like, are we poking the bear? Because I know that there are some people who about Hades, feel like he should just look completely different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that was never something that we were really going to consider, because we think that like people like the way Hades looks in Smite, right? That's the way he looks in Smite, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like we could get the Bident into his existing look as a nod to the people who are concerned that it wasn't as lore accurate as it could be. But I think we probably got as much negativity from people who are like, well, why don't you do the whole thing, as we got positivity about the Bident. So maybe I went a little too hard asking for it, but I thought it was a good thing to have.
I think it was a good ask. The point is like when we have opportunities that come up where we can introduce some of those elements and it's not going to like hurt anything along the way, right? Like, then why not, right? So like we'll definitely like see if that's an opportunity that we feel would make sense. If it makes the character feel too different, or like pay to lose, pay to win, the timings on things are off now, or like it messes up the version of the rig, too many complications come up, then we're just gonna keep it as is. Because it's a very like even without that, like I do think wings would be cool, but like even without that, that's a masterpiece skin model in my opinion. So we'll take a look and see if it makes sense.
This is an interesting one. And it's kind of a bit of a design thing in addition to an art thing. But for Erlang Shen, if we ever get to Erlang Shen,
we'll get to that, boy.
Sun Wukong has 3 transformations, and Erlang Shen has 2.
Yeah.
Would we consider adding a 3rd animal form?
Okay, so you talking design.
Yeah.
Erlang Shen is Erlang Shen, and if they're like, we're gonna one up him, make him spicy for Smite 2. He wasn't hot enough, right? That's up to them, right?
Okay.
But then if they say that new transformation means it's like a new animal, I don't know what other, a turtle and a like otter or something. What is the
maybe something like that.
Yeah,
He's kind of
it's a cute little guy, right?
Yeah.
But like if we do something like a bird or something, right? Then it's like we have to talk to animals.
It's a mink.
Mink. There you go. Yeah.
Chat. You guys are so knowledgeable.
I couldn't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
I could see it. I just
He's
like
an otter shape, right? They're all the same. They're long, slender, like cute little creatures. So if that means the new animations being made and stuff, that would just come into the budget. But like if designs like this is gonna really like sell the character to feel cooler and like hit the lore better, the fans will appreciate it, and it doesn't break anything, or it's like it replaces an ability that like if it's a movement ability, you change it for another movement ability that then transfers into another animal, and we thought it would be a huge hit. I mean, it's something we can talk about, but it's gonna come with the cost of like our team needing to be available to do it. which we just would have to move things around and be like, that means now that we can't do a chibi skin.
What we should really do is just go super hard and give both Sun Wukong and Erling Shin 72 transformations, you know?
Yeah.
Be completely lore accurate.
72 years.
Yeah, 72 years.
This is a fun thing maybe to talk about. Jormungandr. The question was, how many bones does Jormungandr have? But maybe it would be an interesting way to talk about like how we even did Jormungandr.
Oh my god!
Because
that guy, I remember there was like a whole thing we were doing. It's alt a certain way, and then it was like, we're doing it a different way. It was like really close to the end after the rig had been done, and like we had to scramble the jet fighters to figure out how to like get this thing even in game. So his first question on the bone count, surprisingly, he's not as much as you think, because he like you'd imagine like when I see a person, he's just like arms. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, exactly.
It's just a noodle.
Yeah, it's like an arm, and the arm goes to a forearm, and the forearm goes to a hand bone, and then there's like fingers that all move. So like, the hierarchy of an arm is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 ish. And sometimes we do like, I don't know if you all catch this. We have hands like this sometimes, right? Where they're grabbing something and their hand is always like this because we couldn't afford the bones to give them all here. So they'd be like 3 bones maybe, right? For these 2 fingers, we don't have 6 bones. But that's a lot of bones because there's so much articulation that can happen, right? In any of these areas, right? So if you're just a snake, you're just like, it's like
chilling.
there is a spine bone, right? That you just kind of most characters have along their back, and you just kind of like it just like arcs in a couple of spots. So there's not really a lot of bones there. There was stuff for like his little finny things that would when he spit and like up here, like there was some things on the face. He got a lot of more facial, I think, love because he's so big and the face is everything about the character, right? And I think even like his clap. You did the clap. There's
a
like
little minion.
There's
that
a minion
up.
that comes in. I think he either is PAC'd in or he's actually part of his bone count. But like, there's like might be like a minion just hiding in his stomach the whole time. That's actually part of the bone count. And we can still afford it because he's so lean when it comes to bones. So he's not that many bones, and you still get great articulation. The hardest thing was just trying to figure out the alt and the way the alt worked because it was more like we had like the spline tech. And it was more on the tech art and programming side to make that work because you had to we had to build them in chunks, like a chunk of like a sushi roll chunk, right? And you just like multiple sushi rolls.
Oh, that's a Yormskin idea. You just
that is a good idea. Yeah.
This is how we do it,
right?
This
yeah,
is how we
live
do it,
on air.
So, anyways, like his mesh is these like constant like repeating elements, and then you would then interpolate that along a spline via like programming and stuff like that, tech art. But then there'd be the big head at the end, right? So that was always a technical challenge. And sometimes I think you'd see eras where like it didn't work as well, maybe because the skin was not working right, or there was a problem like in live, and like maybe you get like the kind of like chunks you would actually get to see it. We don't want that, but we'll do a better route in SMITE 2. There's more tech for Unreal 5. Unreal 3, we're like working with like the Stone Age technology, like way after, you know. But with Unreal 5, we'll have better tech for that stuff. But yeah, that was kind of like the complications and things with that guy. He's, you know, the biggest thing with him is how do you give him the personality when he's just a snakehead?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's where like the whole, whatever animator came up with the idea to do the clapping like minion was genius.
Very clever.
They were cooking.
Yep.
Smart. So smart.
This is a 2-part question. I'll talk about the first part, and then I don't know if you even thought about the second part. But how long until the update to Unreal Engine 5.5? And that's the part I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
So we play tested on 5.5 today. We didn't notice any issues at this point, so we're probably going to run a flash test for it pretty soon, I would assume, with the next major update, and plan for it to go live with the next major update. But we may run into some issues where we can't do that. And from an art perspective, do you know, are there any like tools you're going to get with 5.5 that you don't have in 5.3? And I haven't looked at it from our perspective, so I don't know.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay, so like when we went to Unreal 5, like it just goes to PBR. There's a whole bunch of things get given to us, but like any new features that come out that Unreal might have, we probably, it's like overkill. Like we don't need these things like our game is built a certain way. It's like meant to be like a online game, fast paced. We want the gameplay and graphics to be as like good FPS, very smooth. We don't need to have things that are like crazy fancy like Naughty Dog games where it's like the background's amazing and you got 50 million polygons because they use like nanite or something like that right there, right? Like I don't think and then Lumen, and so Lumen is a thing that's like global illumination, but that then factors into you have to use nanite to take the advantage of Lumen. So it's like some technical things. So if you use Lumen without nanite, you don't get the big wins that Lumen kind of allows for people to have. And we don't use nanite we might use nanite on a couple of things, but like you gotta like be like all in or not. And so games like ours like don't really like we don't leverage that as much, I think, because we had a whole conversation about this in the very beginning, right? And so with new tools that come out, it's like do we need to have that, right? Like is that something that I need that's going to add any value to the game? And if it's like, no, it's just like a cool bell and whistle that like might work for somebody else, then we probably won't use it. And then the other thing is like I've been doing this for a while. I like went through, I used to, my first engine was like Unreal 2. So we did like a modified Unreal 2.5 and then we went into Unreal 3 and
Unreal 2. It's not even an engine
I know.
I think about hearing about.
There was no, it was the graphic user interface for it was not artistically inclined. It was a lot of, like,
Ben's like, don't take me back to those days.
I've worked on a couple edges, but like it's like almost like an Excel spreadsheet for a lot of things, and drop downs and shit for like your textures and all that. So, anyways, back then when Unreal 3 came out, it's like we were beta testers, dude. Like. Epic's like, yeah, let's try this new engine. Like, it's going to be great. And it's like, it works great for them because they're like, here's Gears of, I don't know, game history, right? Like, Gears of War was like their big thing back in the day. And that was like Unreal 3. And it was like, holy shit. Like, I'm used to PS5. We're in the Xbox 360 now. This is nuts. And that came with like, it worked great for them because they're the guys working on the thing. So they catered all their stuff on the back end to fit them. I came here in 2007, and so we were working on a game called Global Agenda, and like our game was like going to be like online MMO style stuff. All that back end, we had to build ourselves, right?
Yep.
And there was like moments where like things like as a modeler, if I build this like this bottle, right? It's like I got to make sure this bottle is like, we call it watertight, and so it's like basically geo exists all around this thing. Like if I did like this, I'm like shit.
I know, right? Hopefully you close it.
He's like, watertight. Oh no, I gotta go. But like when you make some models and stuff like that, if you would have this bottle cap into the top here, I might not like make the vertices that exist at the top of the bottle matched and like welded to the vertices at the top of the bottle cap. So effectively, this would be this. But you could build it in a way where this could rotate off, right, like a separate element, and it's like two pieces of geo that are fused together, but they're not like welded together, so it wasn't like airtight, right? Back in the day, they had like lighting stuff, and so when you kind of have lighting in game, like if I built it that wasn't watertight, no one knew this, right? Or maybe some people, I don't know, I'm gonna get like on blast, like Kotaku's gonna take me down.
Oh no!
But like. If you didn't have it watertight at one point, and we didn't know this, at least here internally, it would like have shading errors, right, in the actual geo, and then eventually it just got fixed, right, because someone was like, dude, if you don't do this watertight, it has shading errors, and like they didn't. I don't know if they knew that or like if the way that their system was built when they made models, they're like always do watertight meshes, and then us as like other developers that were using Unreal learned, oh man, like this actually doesn't work, right? And we help them kind of beta test their game by like fixing that. So anyways, long story short, if you like you use like new tools that aren't vetted, that could break your whole thing. Like it may look great on paper and like their white notes might feel good, but then like you go in and it's like, oh, this breaks this thing over here that you already had is integral to what we do in Unreal. So it's like anything could be a risk when you bring it into that environment. So for me, I'm like, look, man, if I got everything I need, I don't need all this fancy stuff if it's not going to be beneficial for SMITE. Now, if there's something that bring up that's revolutionary and makes it so we can have better frame rates, better effects, like, better like material calls and stuff like that. Like they have like a lot of like different material types they're working with that work for different things. Because I mean, Unreal 5 is even for like film and stuff. So like it's not just these updates aren't just for games. They've already mastered that part. It's like they are mostly looking for other areas probably when they're doing updates too. But yeah, if it's not like going to be beneficial for us, then I'm not going to force it. I'll just in my spare time play with that stuff.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, we are at 2 p.m. It's been a hell of a show so far, but it's time for one more question. And we'll get to it.
Thanks to Ben for coming on today.
Shout outs to Ben.
No Thanks for chat for an art special edition of Titan Talk. It's always fun having Ben on to talk about this kind of stuff that a lot of times you would never hear about if you weren't in the industry, right? Like, it's just a very different, before I worked in the industry, a lot of it was just like, I play the game and the thing looks
good,
cool.
Like,
I don't know how this works.
I don't know what a draw call is or
like
when that matters.
Many years of like studying that leads to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I think it's it's a little bit different from our normal show format, but I think it's a fun whenever Ben comes on. So thank you.
I'll try to come by more often. I think I said that last time.
People want you to stream on Twitch, Ben. You got to start a Twitch stream so you can talk more art.
I'll do my best. Do you mind if I pull one? There was someone that
go for it. Yeah, this will be your question.
Have there been any unintentional pay-to-win skins? So we never try to intentionally do that. We unintentionally sometimes have like, okay, so I'm like, all right, man, we got these tier 5 skins. How do we make them crazy? And there's like the first ones, that Thanatos who's just walking through and then the wings appear and you're like, oh, this is crazy. I want to buy this. Thanatos has wings, so it kind of works, right? Like you're not like, it's not too crazy. Then you're like, how do we one-up this, right? There was a year we did the Thor one, and that just, to me, was I like Gundams, but like his proportions, the way we made it work was cool, but like the final product to me like felt like he had like almost chibi mech proportions, right? Then there was one we did that was kind of like, it was Anubis. That was the one. That's the one, Anubis. So like Anubis, we're like, okay, man, we're gonna do this guy. Kind of like what we did back in the day on the Angelic, but we're going to go bad. We're going to go evil, right? This dude's going to do summon a pact with some demon lord somewhere, and there's going to be satanic stuff, and then he's going to devolve and turn, like, the narrative was like he's trying to form a pact, but he's trying to, like, be cool with the thing, and then all of a sudden, its intentions were to take his body over. You'll never catch that. Outside of patch notes, maybe.
So there might be some voice lines.
Yeah, it was like, oh, man, this is awesome. So... And we were trying to have the corruption kind of take over with the voice, so it was like, oh snap, like his mind's getting insane, right? So eventually he's a Anubis. He actually was a human, like a mage kind of thing, right? So we took the dog head off, but like, and the legs weren't like digigrade legs. So he's like doing his whole thing, casting spells and stuff, and then he gets to the next phase, which is like the Anubis rig, which is like the digigrade legs, because he's getting a little more kind of like creature like, and so the 1 to 2. And 2 and 3 were the exact same rig, right? But the 1 to 2 to 3 didn't feel like any like pay to lose, pay to win kind of thing, right? And then we got to like the final form, and all of a sudden he like gets really big, and like the camera changed and stuff like that. I remember AJ being like, "Dude, this is such pay to lose, dude. Like because you can't see the camera now changed and stuff, and like he's all big and stuff, and there's like these spiky things off his back that happen." So like that was one where like we unintentionally did like a pay to lose kind of skin. I feel like, I mean, it's not like for a guy like me. I play the game and I'm like, that's just cool. I'm picking that. I don't care if I'm having a little bit of problems as a result, but I'm not like one of these crazy like guys that like is super into the meta and like plays at like the top tier level of gameplay, right? And so I could see them being mad as F about that. But like for me, I'm like, this is not going to be so much of a pay to lose that like makes me not want to buy it, because I just play it, I'm having a good time, and I just compensate for like a little bit of like, okay, I can't see this one part of the screen. So like I could see ranked people being like, that's like a pay to lose kind of thing. I don't think there's any real pay to wins that we'd have at any time.
I feel like it's usually been like audio that was too quiet, or there were a couple Poseidon skins where like the whirlpool effects were hard to see. I feel like that's usually been like the inadvertently pay to win. And as soon as like we get feedback from people that FX are hard to see or the audio's too quiet or is missing a distinct tell, a lot of times like the thing that Kellen really tries to not change is like the startup sound of an ability use. So like even if there's not, even if the effects are completely different and it's not thematic for the skin, he tries to keep that beginning bit so oh, somebody's doing this thing. So usually like most of the pay to win feedback we got over the years was those two things, I would say.
We keep that pretty sacred. We really try not to like, the gameplay is king. Like we were always trying to make sure that things are better there. Like there was even like a moment in like I think probably like about like a couple of months ago maybe, where like the Ymir Cacodemon skin that came out, right, had this really cool, we redid the wall, and that thing was cool. Like super jail cell looking things and like dead bodies in there is crazy. But the problem is when you're like doing the ability, you're about to put it down, we use like this thing called a Fresnel, which is like just highlighting the edges of things. And so it's like transparent so you can see through. And that's fine when it's a cube, right? So like if I have like just like a phone, right, and it's like this is like a square shape right here, it's like this is only going to like reflect on the edges, like how the top of this has like light, right, hitting there. That would be like the Fresnel effect, just around the geometry edges, right? So we're like, this is great. And so you have it on the Ymir's main wall, which is like 3 big chunks of ice. That works fine. You have then a jail wall, and the artist that worked on that's like, it's Unreal 5, dude. And he's an artist. The guy Dave Riddle. He's like really like loves to handcraft things, and so he's like every single piece of wall in that jail cell is going to be handcrafted. All the body parts are going to be separated, and so like because they're separate elements of Geo, that Fresnel effect that goes on the outside just created a chaos of like light edges everywhere.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm like trying to place I remember being in a playtest and I was trying to play as Ymir and I was like, dude, I'm trying to put this wall down. I remember AJ was like, it feels real bad. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. This shit looks great. Like, And so eventually I'm like, I didn't know. I didn't playtest as much back then, right? I playtest every day now, right?
Yeah.
I get beat up on by the team. But like, I put that down and I was like,
yeah.
That's what he meant. Because like everything was like, it's see-through, but it's not see-through because like there's light everywhere at the edges of everything. So that was a moment where then like I talked to Justin Miller on the team and he was like, I'm on it. We're gonna go. We got right in there and he adjusted the thing so that the mesh like was more like the Fresnel wasn't as intense. So like even when things do happen when we put those through accidentally, we do our best to kind of clean up our messes.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So.
All right. Two quick questions.
Yeah, quick one. This is more of a bug report, but I've seen Lux the Wolf ask, can we look at fixing Duke Dandelions on her, please? His facial hair is the wrong color, and he's missing his shirt. His torso is clipping over it. So, just a mental note for you, Ben.
Yeah. This is like
Duke Dandelions.
the model or like the card art. Which one?
Oh yeah, Lux the Wolf. If you can specify card art or model, let us know.
Yeah.
And that's gonna dictate which one we could do or not do.
He says model.
Okay. We'll take a look.
Or they say model. Sorry.
Cool. And I will very quickly. I had one and then I lost it.
You gotta find a good one.
I know. There was a question. If we didn't have a prior fan base to please while making Smite 2. What are some things you would have done differently or kept the same? I think it's very difficult to even imagine what the answer to that question would be, because this game only exists because of the community that loved the first one, right? Like, if it wasn't for the Smite community, we might be making a roguelike or something. I don't know. Like we'd probably be doing something completely different, right? And it's not to say that the people working on this game don't love making MOBAs and making this kind of game, but like it's just without Smite as a past, this game would be just a completely different thing, right? I would say from going from Smite 1 to Smite 2, at first, I think we tried to experiment. I don't want to say too much, but I think that like some of the core things weren't in place. So people could only judge it on the core things that didn't feel right. And it was easy to blame the things that had changed as the reason why the core game didn't feel right, when in large part it was just that some other core things weren't done and ready yet, right? So I think that like we didn't present it in the best way at first and didn't give some of those changes a chance to, marinate. I think in this place, we are now able to like do a little bit more experimenting again, and you've seen that with things like the action camp so far, and we're going to continue to do some more experimenting and seeing how we can kind of continue to evolve the SMITE formula and make sure it feels like the SMITE that you know and love, because that's really important, but also that we're continuing to push it and evolve it. So that's a quick answer, but for a question that I could probably spend 30 minutes on. But
for sure.
I think it's a very interesting one, and we'll probably touch on more of that kind of thing in the future.
Definitely.
So we did not do an align check. Super quick.
Orange kiss for me.
We only had orange today, and I don't like orange flavored things, so I got a Monster Zero Ultra.
Ben's got the
wonderful water.
The by blueberry. There you go.
Only blueberry. It's amazing.
Oh, sweet. Well, Kilgoon and Ben, thanks so much for joining us on the show here. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out. It's been a banger of a show, Ben. We got to get you on the show more often. Man. We always have fun when you're here. But chat, thanks so much for tuning in. Mercury, going to be coming up. We'll be revealing him on Monday. Then after Mercury, you can look forward to Sun Wukong on the battleground. We'll be back on Friday with another edition of Titan Talk. But until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Peace.